While Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have been dodging reporters, J.D. Vance was everywhere on Sunday, taking on the media.
I think that, unfortunately, Kamala Harris has run a campaign where every time she's in front of voters, a teleprompter is in between. She doesn't really talk to the media, like, at all. She hasn't answered, I think, a single tough question from a reporter. So, yeah, one of my jobs is to get out there.
And he did get out there with 3 separate interviews with CNN, NBC News, and CBS News. He faced adversarial questions and interviewers, and Vance came prepared. Here was one moment with CNN's Dana Bash.
And on the question of when he left the National Guard, he filed his election paperwork February 10th, 2005. That was a month before the National Guard even announced that it was possible that they would deploy to Iraq, and it ended up being 2 months. He retired 2 months before they actually got the paperwork.
But on CNN last night, Dana, one of the people who was actually in charge of him said they knew they were going to deploy to Iraq in February of 2004, so, or excuse me, fall of 2004. So he knew he was going to Iraq. He decided to quit, to retire, whatever word you want to use.
Retire.
Because he wanted to run for Congress. He lied about that. He said that when he decided to retire, he did not know that he was going to Iraq. That is another untruth, as even his senior military officer said.
Very well. And Vance skillfully knocked down ABC's Jonathan Karl on immigration and the border.
Well, John, we have to start with the fact that we have a wide open southern border because our border czar actually set a lot of open border policies. They suspended.
You know, she's not actually, she wasn't the border czar.
Oh, that was what the media called her. She assumed the title. She had control over a lot of our border policy at a time when they were suspending.
After sparring with the media, Vance posted on X, "I enjoyed sitting down with 3 of the major networks today to answer the tough questions that any leader should answer. Kamala Harris has done as many tough interviews as Tim Walz has battlefield deployments." Zing!
Boom.
Kennedy.
Governor Walz, he did not see combat, and he should have been on the Sunday shows clarifying his record for voters because it has created so many more questions than answers. But it's this very thing, like, these types of interviews, the perception, it will add up over time with voters. You know, the fact that, and there may be people who disagree with J.D. Vance. There may be people who've been told not to like him so far, and they're buying into that. But the more they see things like this, at least they will respect him for having answers and being able to fact check and challenge some of these interviewers in real time who are giving him cover for terms like border czar. They did the same thing with Bidenomics and Obamacare. At one point, those were all pejoratives. Then all of a sudden, they were mantles that were embraced by various politicians. So she was the border czar. She never stood up and said, "How dare you call me that? That's so rude and misogynistic." If you said Borders Arena, maybe, which I've always called her. But the fact that he can challenge them in real time, and he's right about that stuff, that will have an effect by November.
And we hope, however, Kaylee, that the effect will be bringing the truth to the American people, because thus far what we've seen already is an incredibly disparate treatment of these candidates by the media. Let's just play a couple examples.
He had sort of a joyful presence, a folksy.
The Harris waltz sounds like a dance to me. It sounds like a happy dance.
Waltz, too. A joyful guy. He's a Midwesterner with big dad energy.
The sun came out. Clear eyes, hearts full, can't lose. Like, I love it.
All-American definition of a man from middle America.
Walz has an ability to be, I know one person said cuddly.
Voters out there who do see this as weird, they see it as odd, they see it as fringe, extreme.
Offensive on so many levels.
It's the tale of 2 tickets. One radiates joy. The other is dour and, frankly, frightening.
Every day, it comes out, Vance has done something more extreme, more weird.
All right, so we have one is a dance, one is frightening, one is folksy, one is taking us back. The list goes on. And what's frightening, however, I argue, is that absolutely disparate treatment.
Yeah, so how do you beat that? That is powerful, what we just watched. That's propaganda. I would park J.D. Vance in those studios. I'd park him in the Face the Nation studio. I'd park him in the CNN studio. I'd park him in the MSNBC studio. The biggest asset you have in J.D. Vance, he wasn't a map choice. It's, you know, you didn't choose him to bring on a state. You chose him because he can do adversarial interviews and do them well. His answer about Tim Walz's service, he went on to say, I'm not criticizing his service. I'm criticizing his dishonesty and what he did for political benefit. And he said, what does that say about Kamala's judgment? And then went right back into policy and inflation. This is someone who knows how to do hostile interviews. Put him there. It's your best asset. Deploy him across the Sunday shows. He handled those interviews absolutely brilliantly.
And in stark contrast to the still MIA Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say she's MIA. She is doing some things on the stump that are working for her. She's got a pretty tight script. We show side-by-sides of where she says the exact same thing. And she tells Wisconsin while she's telling, Michigan that they're the most important state to go through and so on and so forth. But what she hasn't done is really face the hotness of being in the center in a good sit-down interview or a debate. And I agree with Kayleigh. You've been saying it for weeks now. They need to debate before that RNC convention. Now, that's not likely to happen because it's next week, but you've been saying it for a while. Look, it's been 22 days, and there are now almost as many days since she was announced as there are to the first round of early voting in North Carolina, one of the battleground states, we would think. So 25 days to that. We've been reintroduced at least 8 times to Kamala Harris with new facts and whatever. I put that in quotes in some cases. I don't know, outside of staying on message and not being as angry when he does for Donald Trump, what more he needs to do. The case has been laid. The clock's on their time now. It benefits them on the left. So get out there with your message with J.D. Vance. The president gets out. Everybody stay on message, stay crisp. Don't let this woman in your head making you angry.
Right. But the media will still characterize J.D. Vance no matter how much he's out there, how effective he is. They will try. And the question is, will they succeed?
I've always wondered how Republicans ever win a national election. I mean, this is going on for a couple of decades now. And it really is remarkable to have to break through the Hollywood myth-making machine, the mainstream media myth-making machine. It's extraordinarily powerful, and it's so disingenuous. It's gotten worse. When Jonathan Karl, I saw a video of him on 2023, essentially calling Kamala Harris the border czar. All of a sudden now he's upset about it. And then, this notion that somehow in the military, you don't know when your orders are going to come through, like months and months before. When I first joined the Air Force and I was a security policeman, we had the beige uniforms, the camouflage. I said, what happened to the green ones? They said, no, the next major wars would be in the desert. And you knew months before. He knew what was going on. That's why he skedaddled. And you're right. Trump and J.D. Vance are just going to have to get this message out themselves because no one's going to help them.
Well, nobody can sell it like Trump. He's a marketing genius.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.